Welcome to the Health by Haven podcast. I'm your host, Haven Quinlan. If you're a multi-passionate wellness enthusiast, then you're in the right place. I'm obsessed with learning as much as I can about the wellness world, and I want to share that with you. Each episode will dive into various aspects of health and wellness through inspiring and informative guest interviews with some solo episodes thrown in. Tune in for all things health, and let's have some fun, shall we? Haley Cottrell is a licensed professional counselor and completed her Master of Arts degree in clinical mental health counseling at Liberty University. She's been in private practice for 5 years. Haley's clinical focus includes anxiety and depression, divorce, parenting and relationship issues, as well as grief and shame. Haley can also address trauma and is trained in EMDR. Her passion is working with children, adolescents, families, and individuals using a collaborative approach while providing a safe place for clients to explore, heal, and grow. Haley, thank you so much for joining us on the Health by Haven podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, me as well. So for a little background, Haley and I know each other from Pure Barre, but Haley, for people listening who may not know you, can you kind of fill in the gaps? Tell us a little bit about yourself outside of your bio.
Oh, sure. That question always stumps me. Like, tell me about yourself. Like, I don't know myself. Well, I am a single mom, so I've been divorced for 4 years. I have 2 kiddos, 13 and 16, so I'm right in the throes of teenage years. Um, I'm really busy with them, but outside of just mom and all of that, I love my job. I'm a therapist, obviously. I love it in private practice. I do Pure Barre with Haven, and I love it. Shout out to Pure Barre. It's so great. You should try it. And I like to run and do yoga and hang with my girlfriends. So I'm pretty busy, but also try to find time for rest and balance.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's like always the struggle, right? Fitting it all in.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
I'm so thrilled to chat with you today because mental health is something that I think is so, so important. And it's not really a topic that I've gotten to like specifically dive into on the podcast. So I'm so glad we're chatting today. So I'm wondering if we can kind of like go back before we dive into your day to day. When did you know you wanted to become a therapist?
This is such a great question. So I did not go back to grad school until I was in my 30s because I did not know what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I came out with my undergrad, worked in some like crisis work, did that. Then I had kids and I ended up staying home, but I always knew that I wanted to go into the helping profession and take the next step. I just wasn't exactly sure what that was going to look like. And then once my kiddos went back to school, I was like, I think it's time for me. And I found the program at Liberty, and it was just amazing how it fit right with my schedule. And I was able to do that and be mom. And then I ended up here. I've been at Ebenezer, that's where I work, and I ended up here sort of by accident. It's such a great accident because I love it so much. I always thought I would take the community mental health route, and then I ended up in private practice, and it's just been amazing. And my coworkers are awesome, and it's such a great practice. So that's how I kind of ended up here. But I've always been passionate about mental health and kind of taking some of that stigma away from it. It's such an important topic that I don't think we talk about enough.
Yes, absolutely. Which is why I'm so thrilled to chat with you today. And I love hearing that you went back to school later on because I think that's also kind of been a common thread on the podcast. People like going and getting a degree in something different than what they maybe originally studied or working in a field that wasn't their originally intended industry. So I think it's great when people can hear that as well.
Oh, yeah. If you had told me like 15 years ago I would be a therapist in private practice, I would have laughed. So I just think it's amazing how life can just take you on a path that you don't expect.
Absolutely. So when you are meeting with clients, I'm curious, what are some of the most common things you're seeing? Is there like a common thread that a lot of people are coming to you with?
Oh, yes. I would say the kind of, I guess, the issue I see the most, so much anxiety.
Yeah.
I think I deal with that probably like number one, depression as well. lots of trauma work. I do kind of have a trauma focus, so I do a lot of that. But I do work with kids, teens, and adult women, and then sometimes couples. And I think across the board, I just see really high levels of anxiety.
Yeah, and that's something I feel like is so prevalent in our society today when we are
Yes.
always go, 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 and you have to check everything off your list, and more is better.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
I'm sure people who are listening can relate to that. And
Yes.
so maybe I'm putting you in the hot seat, but like if we as
Okay.
listeners are like your clients coming in, what are some tools? Obviously, like finding a therapist, a licensed professional to talk to is super important.
Mhm.
But in the in between, what are some tools that you give some of your clients that maybe people who are
Yeah,
listening could implement if they're dealing with, let's say, some anxiety?
sure. Well, it's kind of counterculture, but resting, that is like the number one thing, using mindfulness techniques, self-care. I think the first thing to go is self-care because we're
Mm,
so busy taking care of other people or working or just doing so many things. And like you were saying, I think there's kind of a theme that busier is better, but then we end up burnt out. We end up creating more anxiety. We feel like we're never doing enough, all of those things, and then rest just goes. But I think that's like, even in my intake sessions, that is the first thing I'm saying. It's like we need to up the mindfulness, up the self-care. So that's just number one. Gosh, number two, really checking in with your self-talk, the way you're talking to yourself, because that is so impactful.
mm.
And if there's lots of negative talk going on, there's going to be a lot of anxiety. So really working on that. I'm connecting with other people, finding other outlets, finding hobbies, things outside of work, things that are really for you.
Yeah,
Those are just some right
absolutely.
off the top of my head, just some things that those are my go-tos.
Yeah. Well, I love that you brought up hobbies as well, because I feel like when you're a kid, it's like such a priority to have crafts or sports or little
Yes.
like things that you're doing like purely for fun and not you're not worried about being productive all the time. And then
Right.
at least for myself, like those easily go out the window when you have like a
Yes.
laundry list of things to do. And so I
Hmm.
guess maybe going off of that, with these different groups that you're working with, children, adolescents, young adults, families, like are there different specific things that you're recommending, or is it all kind of a similar boat of like get your rest, get your you time?
Yes, I do. That one is across the board, especially for kids and teens, because typically they have so many activities that they're doing. I mean, they're doing school and then they're doing multiple activities after school and they're feeling a lot of pressure. So I think for that group, it's important. I mean, they need rest just for development and growth. I think sometimes that can get a little skewed because they're so busy. And then for my adult women that I'm seeing, I think hobbies are so important because it helps connect with your sense of self. And it's
Mm,
something that you're doing just for you outside
mhm.
of everything else. And it can be even hard to find a hobby. But I'm like, oh, go try a few things and see what you like to do. Because
Yes.
we kind of get out of touch with ourselves sometimes when we're so productive and so busy, and I love the idea of just finding out who you are. Again, maybe you knew when you were younger and kind of lost it as time went on, especially, wife, mom, work, all the things we do. I just think it's a really important thing to connect with that sense of self.
Absolutely. So, is there like a tactic or technique? Like, I'm thinking about, I'm a list maker. So, I'm thinking
Yes.
like, if I were to go through this exercise, I would want to write down like a list of things that I like to do for
Yes.
fun. But is there maybe something like tangible, people at home listening to, if they're like,
Mhm.
I don't even know like what I want to do for fun,
Where
to
to
kind of put,
start?
yeah.
Yes. Well, another go-to of mine, and this is such a debated topic in my office because I always say this and I never know what reaction I'm going to get, but journaling.
Mm.
Some of my clients are like, do not tell me to journal. I hate it. And other clients are like, I love it. But that's just a good way. It's so powerful for so many reasons. A, it's just powerful to get your thoughts out of your head, especially if you're feeling anxious and there's a lot going on and things are feeling racy and busy. Just taking some time to write it all out, get it all out is really helpful. But that could also be a tool to sort of examine what are the things you like, or maybe you definitely know the things you don't like. Like, I definitely don't want to do these, but these are
Hmm.
some activities or things that I'm interested in pursuing, and giving
Hmm.
yourself a little bit of direction because you definitely don't want to get overwhelmed. You want it to be a positive experience. And so starting out small is always what I recommend, because if we go too big, then we get anxious about trying to
Hmm.
do all the things and we're kind of
Yeah.
doing the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yes, ugh, I cannot agree more because I feel like that's the way that we all go into the new year with like goals or resolutions. It's like,
Yes.
oh, I want to do this and this and this and this and this. And then it gets like so overwhelming. And then you end up not doing any of it.
Then we do
So,
nothing. And then
yeah.
that sends you into another spiral.
Right, right. So I like your idea of like starting small, picking one thing that you're enjoying that's
Mhm.
just for you, and then maybe building from there.
Yes. And I think it's the type of activities too, because some people prefer more quiet, slow activities like yoga, reading, something like
Mhm.
that. Other people really prefer more active, like running, dancing, working out, things like that. So I think it's just
Mhm.
exploring those things too, or maybe having one from each kind of category.
Well, you're making me feel better about my like inability to sit still because
Yes.
I know that yoga and like meditation, mindfulness is so good for you. And it's never been something that I've been good at like sitting still and doing, but I kind of like find that meditative state in running a lot. And I feel
Yes.
like when you kind
Mhm.
of like get into a long run rhythm where you feel that runner's high and you can kind of like think through, hard things or just like take a moment to almost like escape the crazy. That's where like I
Mhm.
find it. So, do you find like I don't know, other ways people are finding this like meditative state
Yes.
besides just like sitting and
I
Mhm.
actually love that you brought that up because I bring this up with my clients a lot. I think mindfulness is different for everyone. I mean, I think the traditional definition of sort of slow and quiet and connecting, but for some people that is a busier activity like running or doing something like that. Because I have a couple of
Mhm.
clients when I tell them to meditate, they're like, no, like it makes me anxious just to even think about sitting still.
Yes.
Like, that's totally fine. I really think it's finding what works for you. Like you were saying, to really get into that state where you feel like you're connecting with yourself. Because that's the most important part, is that you are connecting with yourself, letting emotions run through, letting feelings move. And sometimes movement is so helpful for that because you're moving things through. So I think
Mhm.
it really can be either, mindfulness is kind of what you need it to be. But the most important part of it is the non-judgmental, where we're not judging our feelings, not judging our thoughts, just letting them be, letting them sit with us, and letting them kind of move through us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're making me feel better.
But yeah, no, I'm with you. I run too, and you can always tell when I'm angry because my runs are so much better.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad you said
It's
that
like, oh, that was
too.
an angry run.
Yeah, like in previous jobs when I've had like a rough day, I'll like go on an evening run. That's like a tell. Like for my family, they're like, "Uh-oh." Like if she's going
Uh-oh.
out on a run at night, it's been like a long day, but it's a great way to kind of like take a stress relief for myself personally. So,
Yes. And I love that you know that. And I think that's what's so just important, is knowing ourselves and knowing what we need to work through things or to
mhm,
deal with that stress or the anxiety.
mhm. Okay, so I know we've talked a lot about anxiety specifically because I think that's such like a common thread that a lot of people can
Hmm.
relate to, but I know you said you have like a trauma focus as well. And so when
Yes.
people are coming in with maybe those like bigger traumas in their life, how does
Hmm.
it look like you working with them one on one versus somebody who's coming in with maybe like generalized anxiety or depression or just being in a really stressful season of life?
Sure. It really honestly doesn't look all that different. So, we're doing the intake, getting to know history. I'm really kind of a digger. There's a lot that happens in childhood. I'm really into attachment theory. I didn't even really bring that part up, but I'm always kind of digging into that because that's all developed in childhood. So if
Mm,
I'm doing a more trauma focused work, I'm probably going to pull from the EMDR, which is this kind of a specialized modality that we use specifically for trauma. So it may just be a little more intensive work.
mm.
But we're going to take it slow or, kind of those things.
Okay.
But
And
yeah,
then,
but it's not all that different. Honestly, like I'm trying to I'm thinking that through and we're still digging around for like core beliefs, tools, what modalities are we going to use, those kinds of
mhm,
things. And I think when you're doing trauma work, your sessions, you may have like a longer period of time in therapy. Whereas if you're coming in for more just generalized anxiety or something like that, you may have a shorter therapeutic kind of journey or whatever. Trauma
mhm,
can take a little bit more time.
mhm. Okay, well, I was actually just about to ask you, so this fits perfectly. Is like when you're getting new clients and you're seeing them, like how do you decide how frequently you're seeing them, how long of a time span?
Mm,
I'm sure it's so individualized, but what does that
yes.
look like?
Yes, it is so individualized. I mean, some clients need just sort of a brief therapeutic experience where they maybe come in just for a couple of months because there's a very specific stressor that's going on and they just want to work through that. Other clients, gosh, I've had some clients I've been seeing for years. So it's very, very individualized.
Mm,
Our usual recommendation is I guess the average client probably comes every other week, and then
mhm.
we want to progress down. So if we start it every other week, we want to get to the point where maybe we're coming every month or every other month. Because ultimately, this is going to sound so wild, but my job is to get fired. That in grad school. And I was like, wait, what? And then it makes so much sense because ultimately we want our clients to feel equipped and ready and that they can terminate and kind of incorporate all of that on their own. But I think
Mhm.
everyone gets to that point, at a different pace.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, I go to therapy myself, and I don't know if I'll ever
Mhm.
leave because I
Yeah.
love it so much. So I think it just depends on the individual and what they're presenting with, what their needs are, how they're connecting with the therapist, kind of all of
Mhm.
those elements.
Yes. So, like growing up, I always felt, and I feel like the world of mental health and conversations about it has changed so much over the last
Yes.
however many years, and which is wonderful. I think it's on an improvement trajectory. But I know growing up, I
Yes.
always thought like, oh, you'll only go to therapy if you've had this like horrible specific
Yes.
instance, but that I know is not
Hmm.
the case and that everyone can benefit from different modalities. And so if somebody's listening and that's the mindset they have, they're like, oh, I don't need
Yes.
to go because I haven't had this like huge, big life event.
Hmm.
But maybe they're thinking, oh, like actually, I think I could benefit from this. Like, what would you say? Maybe some like words of encouragement if they're feeling
Yes.
apprehensive or like where to start if they're like, okay, I think this is actually gonna be beneficial to me, but like I have zero clue where to start or how to find a therapist. What advice would you give them?
Yes. Oh, I love that question so much. So, because I agree, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. And I
Mm,
think it can feel scary because, we're a stranger asking you very personal, intimate questions
yeah.
about all sorts of things. So I really respect that. I think most therapists do. When you're coming into the office, we definitely want to treat you with respect and, make it a safe space. I think another thing I've heard is, well, am I going to get like a diagnosis or all of these things? I
Mhm.
have to have this big diagnosis. And that's not the case at all. I think therapy is just such a beneficial thing because it is a safe space to come and talk about anything. It can be a life transition, it can be the anxiety piece, the depression piece. It can be just all sorts of topics. But I do think the relationship and connection with your therapist is the most important piece. So you do
Mm,
feel that relationship piece. So I always encourage people, it is okay to sort of shop around. That may not be a great way to put it.
mhm.
But it may take two or three therapists before you really feel like you're making that connection. And that is okay. Because as a therapist, I would much rather you be with someone that you feel safe and connected with than try to push through. I've even heard people say, well, I don't want to hurt the therapist's feelings by not coming back. I'm like, oh, there's the caretaker piece. So,
Yeah.
so I think that is the most important part of the process. And I think it can be overwhelming, but Psychology Today, that's a website that's very user friendly, A lot of us are on it. It's got a ton of filters, so you can filter through like your specific issue, your price point, what modality the therapist is using. And so that's a really great, just kind of first step. And then you can
Hmm.
also always kind of call around, if you've heard of a therapist, like, oh, maybe I want to try her. If she's full, we will always give referrals or recommendations for other people. So I know it's a scary process to get started, but it's it'll be okay. You can do
Yeah.
it. I know
Yeah.
it's very overwhelming, but I think just narrowing it down to maybe two or three, going doing an intake, seeing how you feel how you might work together. That's a very
Yeah.
important part of the process.
Yeah, well, I think that's great advice too. Honestly, for like any health field, like any doctor or anything as well.
Yes.
And it's I know it's like so much work to like find someone who fits your
Yes.
insurance or your price point and like go in and then you're like having this like emotional upheaval of like telling everything. But you're right. I'm sure that it's so much more effective when you find someone where you feel like comfortable with them.
Yes. I think that's really one of the most important pieces is that relationship piece that you're
Hmm.
building with the therapist and in that therapeutic process.
Well, that's a great resource as well. What was the website called again?
Oh, it's Psychology Today.
Okay.
And I think it's just psychologytoday.com. I think it's like
Yeah.
that simple. And of
Yeah.
course, most practices are going to have websites with all of their therapists, like the bio you read, they're going to have all of that
Hmm.
listed. So you can see their specialties or what they're using to practice, all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. A great place for someone to start if they're
Yes,
looking.
yes. I just love that it has all the filters. So you can really narrow it down to exactly what you need, which can seem a little less overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, you sound so passionate about your job in this field.
Yes.
So I'm curious, I'm sure no job comes out as challenges either. So maybe this feels like an actual interview question, but you're like the most challenging part of your job, but then also your favorite part of your job.
Oh gosh. Okay. The most challenging part, ooh, probably leaving it at work and not
Yeah.
taking it home. That's probably something I struggled with, especially as a new therapist, learning how to sort of
Mm-hmm.
set those boundaries around my time, even my mental
Mm-hmm.
space, and not
Yeah.
carrying it home. I've had to develop some like visualizations and some tools to help me just kind of separate that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the most challenging part. My favorite part, gosh, there's so many great parts. I think it's just when you're seeing your clients learn and grow and they come
Yeah.
in and you can just see they have like these aha moments or these just really amazing moments of growth. And I think that's probably the most rewarding part. Just watching you guys, the clients, just like learning and growing and experiencing things. And, or they come in like, I never thought I'd be able to do it. And I did it, just kind of like those moments make it all worth it.
Yeah, of course, of course. And like you said before, like your job is to help them basically not need you anymore.
Right,
So,
right. Yes. I guess just those breakthrough moments also, those are the best.
yes, yes, amazing. Well, I'm curious if you could get on like your soapbox for 90
Oh,
seconds or a few minutes or whatever and just tell everybody, you know, why you feel like taking care of mental health is
mm,
important and finding a
yes.
therapist or finding those modalities that are helpful is important. Like, what would you say to us if you'd had just an open platform? This is it.
Wow. Okay. I think my thought or my approach, our body is very holistic and it's all working together. So we've got to take care of all aspects, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, all of it. And I think our thoughts are so powerful and they are driving so much of what we're thinking and doing and feeling. And so I think that's why I'm so passionate about it. Just working with that piece is so important. I think it's so helpful just to have someone you can talk to about anything and it's private and it's confidential. I think that's just such a helpful thing to have in your life is just that space. So I think personally everyone should go to therapy, but that's just my own personal thought. Like therapy for you and you and you.
Yes, The Oprah of therapy.
Yes. And I think too, with like the mental health piece, you can see the physical manifestation of all that too. So if we're taking care of our mental health, that's kind of naturally going to help us take care of everything else too.
Hmm.
But it could be a hard piece to take care of because it's an investment. It takes time, all of those kind of things that the barriers to it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, I couldn't agree more that it's all interconnected.
it
And
is.
yeah, I think you're right. Like improving one aspect, whether it's improving mental health, will help improve physical health or spiritual health or whatnot, and vice versa. So I love
Yes,
that
it's definitely
approach.
all working together. And that's another really cool thing. I can see sometimes when we're doing the mental health piece, I can start to see physical improvement too in the clients. I'm like, that's
Hmm.
so cool just to see how it's all working together.
Hmm. What are some of your favorite ways, like personally, to like give back to yourself, take care of yourself outside of work, especially the whole like I know I would have a challenge like separating emotionally from that
Yes.
line of work because I'm always thinking about like how I can do better in my own job outside of work anyways. So, what are some of
Hmm.
your favorite things to like have just for you that's separate?
Yes. Well, I'm not saying this just because it's you, but Pure Bar.
Oh, you're just
Because
fluffing my ego, Haley.
yes, well, just because that is one place that is just mine. Like I
Mm.
go, I mean, have like friends there, but it's just my time. So
Yeah.
that's very important to me. So I think exercise is really important, just the movement
Mm-hmm.
piece. I find a lot of, like you're saying, mindfulness there. I do like to travel a lot and kind of
Oh,
check out and take some
yeah.
time with my kids or just get
Mm-hmm.
away. That's probably definitely a way I kind of invest back into myself. And I'm like preaching to the choir when I talk about rest because I'm not good at it, but I really do try to take time just to rest and be quiet. Like you said, I'm terrible at sitting still, but I do try to do that intentionally and find some time just to be quiet, maybe read a book, drink some hot tea, do
Mm.
something where I'm just allowing myself to check in with myself.
Yeah. Have you read any good books in the last few months that you'd recommend?
Oh my gosh. Like therapy related? Because there's so
Or
many good ones.
either way, like a fun book for your downtime or therapy related.
Yes, I just started this new book. I think it's been around for a long time, but it's like the last thing he told me. It's just kind of a mystery.
Oh
It's a good
yeah.
one. But therapy books, gosh, I'm looking at my bookshelf over there because I have so
Yeah.
many. I really like Brene Brown books. Like, I
Oh
really like
yeah.
her. I know Mel Robbins has a new book out that I probably shouldn't suggest it because I haven't read it yet, but I've had like a few clients that are reading it and love it. There's so many good, solid books out there. There really are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, I'm gonna shift us over to just like some
Yes.
fun questions.
Okay.
Well, maybe you've already answered this, but you don't have to say Pure Barre. What's your favorite
Oh,
workout?
I do like to run, but I
Yeah.
really do like the Define class.
Yeah. It's your favorite format?
I think so. I do love the Align because I love
Mm.
the quiet kind
Hmm.
of, I love the stretching. I love that, but I do like the weight work. And I'm not just saying that. I
Hmm.
really mean that.
You heard it from her, you guys. I'm not paying her to say this.
She's really not. She's really not. No, it's just such a great community.
Yeah, that's so important to find
It
those
is.
people like-minded. Okay,
Yes.
since you mentioned travel, I love traveling as well. Where's like a couple places that you've been that you just really loved?
Oh gosh, I loved going out west, like Jackson
Oh,
Hole,
yeah.
Yellowstone, that whole area. Oh, that was really, really amazing. I like to go there, and I do love a sunset at the beach.
Yeah.
So any beach with sunsets, that is one of my definite
Hmm.
mindful things. Like I just love that whole thing. And
Hmm.
I think we're about to go to Europe, so I'm really looking
So
forward to that.
fun.
So that's a place I haven't been, but my son
Yeah.
is almost a senior. So I hope he doesn't listen to
Yeah.
this because spoiler alert.
We
It's
don't
just a
have to
place we've
tell them.
always wanted to go as a family. And I think
Yeah.
that's next on our list. So I'm
Oh,
really excited about that.
very exciting.
Yes.
What is your favorite food? Or you can pick a few because I feel like that's a
Oh
hard
my
question.
gosh, I have so many. I mean, I really love chocolate. I am a
Mm,
sweet girl. I have a sweet tooth, so I
me
really do
too.
kind of gravitate to sweets. But I have been
Hmm.
trying to eat better lately. But gosh, anything with carbs, pizza, spaghetti, all the not so healthy things.
Yeah. Well, it's all about balance, Haley. It should
Yes,
happen
it's
happen
all
with the
about balance.
veggies.
Yes, yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, chocolate's probably my favorite as well.
Yes, me too. It's just such a go-to. And I try to keep it in my office because, sometimes if you're crying, you just need
Yeah,
some chocolate.
yeah. I love it. I love it. Okay, I've got some rapid fire, this or that
Oh
style
no. Okay.
questions. It's okay.
Okay.
They don't really have to be rapid. Morning or evening workout?
Oh gosh, that one's hard because I really like both. I tend to do evenings just because of my work schedule, but I like mornings because you get it done quicker and
Mm-hmm.
like you're done for the whole rest of your day. So
Yeah.
I think so if I had to pick, probably morning,
Running or walking?
running for sure.
Lifting or body weight workouts?
I don't know because with Define, I've really liked the
Yeah.
lifting. I think I'm into the
Yeah.
lifting.
Yeah. Indoor or outdoor workouts?
Outdoor. I love being outside.
Me too. Juice or smoothie?
Probably smoothie,
Coffee or matcha?
coffee. I didn't have to hesitate on that one.
Salad or bowl?
Bowl. Mhm.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza. That's hard, but probably pizza.
Yeah, it's a toughie.
That's a toughie.
Tacos or quesadilla?
Tacos. Oh, I love tacos.
An early riser or night owl?
An early riser.
Thanks so much, Haley. It was so fun getting
Oh,
to chat with you today. I know you gave people
oh,
really great tools that they can use at home, great tools to find a therapist if they're looking for
mhm.
one as well. But if anyone is listening, where could they follow along, or if they're interested in working with you? Are you accepting new
Yeah.
clients?
Yes, I'm on a wait list currently, but I do accept new clients. I think it's just that's the other thing about the accessibility is everyone's so busy right now. So I
Mm,
do encourage people not to get discouraged. If
yeah.
there's a therapist that you're really interested in, definitely if they're offering a wait list, I always say get on it because it usually goes faster than you're anticipating just because we have
Mm,
cancellations, we have people that shift, things are always moving.
yeah.
So I know that can be a very discouraging part is therapists, the mental health world is just so busy right now. So,
Yeah.
but yes, so I'm at Ebenezer Counseling Services. That's where I am. We have a website, so you can always check me out there. Or if there's, if you want a recommendation for someone else, I love talking all things mental health. And I love connecting people in the community and people with, great fits. So I love to chat about it. So if it's not even me, still hit me up. I will chat with you. I
Perfect.
will
And
try to point you in the right direction.
yes, well, I'm sure people appreciate that so much. And I'll link to your practice in the show
Thank
notes. So anyone who's
you.
listening who wants to just scroll on down, check it out, either sign up for your wait list or message you for some recommendations. I'm
Yes, I'm
sure.
happy to help any way I can.
Amazing. Well, Haley, it was so great chatting with you as
You
always.
too.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Health by Haven podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review. It makes such a huge difference in reaching new people and spreading the joy of healthy living. I would also be so appreciative if you subscribe to the show in the listening app of your choice so you never miss an episode. Your support truly means the world to me. Have a happy, healthy day, and I'll talk to you again soon.